Don't you just love rainy days? When I was a kid, days like this used to be somewhat depressing. But over the years, I've come to appreciate days like this. With the thunder, the lightning. There were times growing up in South Carolina that we would have incredible thunderstorms. Quite frankly, I miss those days. The raindrops, the constant flashes of lightning. But I've since discovered that these are relaxation days. It's like nature's own ASMR moment. There is nothing that can be compared to the rain outside, the tumultuous weather, the sound of the rain hitting on the roof, and sitting inside in your nice, comfortable clothing, just taking it all in. Back then, we would unplug everything. The stereo, the TV. My grandma would even go as far as turning off the lights. And we would sit there and enjoy the peace and quiet and accept everything that Mother Nature was sharing with us at the moment. No can't beat that stick. Years ago, actually about 25 years ago, living in South Carolina, we had a terrible hurricane hit us. A hurricane called Hugo. It caused so much destruction. It snapped trees. It destroyed homes. One guy even found a dog in his yard. And when he looked at the tag, the dog belonged to someone in a whole different county from his. That night, as the storm intensified, my mother had me move my twin-size bed into her room, and my sister slipped in the bed with her. And we stayed up and we talked and we listened to the weather, the high winds. At different points during the night I would look out the window. Of course, course, I saw nothing. It was completely and totally dark. And I could swear that I saw headlights. And I told my mom, there's people driving around in this weather. But that was before 12 o'clock. We would be at the worst part of the storm around midnight. And I guess due to the fact that we survived and we didn't get hurt, our home wasn't damaged, that it was a fun time. But I remember waking up and my mother told us to move into the hallway. So she and my sister got out of the bed. They got their blankets, I got mine. And we moved into the hallway of our home, which really was an apartment. And we laid there and we talked some more. And I remember, I think I was chiding my sister for asking me stupid questions. And then my mother gave me a radio and she said, see if you can find something. Because there was no power throughout the city and really throughout most of the state. I had to find a radio station, a working radio station. And all of the major radio stations were off the air. So I searched and I searched. And I finally found a radio station. And the funny thing is, the music that they were playing wasn't necessarily my type of music or their type of music. But we listened, and we listened intently. And the DJ played music, and at different times it interjected a storm report. But for the most part, we just listened to music. And I don't know what group sang this song. I don't know what the name of the song is. But I just remember the hook. Vaguely remember the hook. And it went something like, I'm having mixed emotions. And at that point, that song struck a chord with me. And I began to realize that I was having mixed emotions. I couldn't tell you what I was feeling, but I didn't know how terrible the storm really was. And I really didn't consider the fact that we could have died. And years later, even now, I think about my mother who's already passed on and she's gone to be with God. I realized that at that time, that she was 35 years old. And I realized that, wow, that was some real strength. Because as long as I was there with her and my sister, I actually felt the modicum of comfort. And I personally don't know what I would have done had I had children and was in such a predicament. And I realized strong she must have been to go through that. I apologize, my phone is loud and I didn't expect to get a tweet. I just turned it down so that it won't disturb us. But that was such a interesting time. And the next day was like a Freddy Krueger movie. Or at least the first one. After Nancy had woken up, or so she thought she woke up. All her friends had been murdered. And she woke up and she came downstairs. She spoke with her mom briefly. And then she stepped outside and all of her friends were in a convertible waiting for her. And when she went to the car, she turned back to see her mom standing in front of the door. And the sun was shining, the sky was clear, and all of a sudden Freddy Krueger's arm reached out of the diamond-shaped window in the door, grabbed her mother, and pulled her into the house, signifying that she hadn't really woken up, she was still asleep. Well, when we stepped outside that next day after the hurricane, the sky was clear, the sun was shining bright. There were a few clouds, but the storm had moved on. And the wind was still kind of high. And I remember seeing my friend, and we started talking. And because the wind was so high, we decided we were going to go and walk around and survey the damage. And I remember unbuttoning my shirt and throwing it throwing it open so that the wind could blow it. And I stretched up my arms and I stomped the ground like I was Michael Jackson in his black and white video. It was silly, but when the wind is that high and you're wearing a button-up shirt, you gotta do that at least once in your life. But despite all that, we walked around town, and across the street from us was a guy. And if you looked at his house, you would be surprised that his house made it through the storm. The storm had uprooted one of the trees in his yard and dropped it on top of his car and his truck. And this guy was outside cursing and whatnot. And I remember my mom saying something to the effect of, he should be thanking God he's alive, because that storm could have easily knocked that tree into his house where he and his family slept. And then they would have really been in trouble. But thank God that didn't happen. So my friend and I walked around town and we were talking and laughing and we were looking at all the damage and we were like, wow, this is incredible. And when we got downtown to the town area where all the storefronts are, we noticed that some of the windows of the stores had been broken. And as we got downtown, a police car pulled up and the officer through his loudspeaker or through the speaker in his car instructed us to go back home. And so we were law-abiding citizens. We didn't have any disrespect for the cops, so we said okay, and we turned around and went back home. But on the way home, we passed by the Radio Shack slash True Value Hardware. No, it was a Radio Shack slash Ace Hardware store. And the windows of the storefront were busted open. And we noticed all the bikes were gone. And that's when I realized, or at least I thought, that maybe that wasn't the storm. I thought that maybe some enterprising individual broke the window and helped themselves to a couple of bicycles, because every single bicycle was gone. The only thing that remained were the go-karts. And I thought, wow, I think somebody stole those bikes, which was something I never would have done. But I believe it happened. Well, looks like the rain has slowed down to a complete stop. It looks like the sun is coming out a little bit. The thunder is still rolling. And it's funny, you hear things as a kid. I heard that when it was raining and lightning like that, either God is upset or the angels are crying. Stuff that I never really put any real stock in. One American folklore, I believe it's, what's it called? The story where the guy goes hunting to get away from his wife, and he fell asleep out in the woods. And when he woke up, he had experienced a emergence in time. And he got up and he went back home. And as he was going back home, he noticed things were different. He was older. And while he was asleep, he met some people. And these people were the original settlers of that area. And they had been bowling. And somehow the story seemed to suggest that whenever there's lightning or thunder, these mythical people were bowling. And the sound of their bowling balls rolling and hitting the pins was what was causing the lightning. But he got home and he discovered that his wife had long passed. His daughter was now an adult with children of her own. And some of the people that lived in this town, while before he left on his faithful journey, were still alive, and they were even surprised to see him because he had been gone for 20 years. Interesting story. Kind of an odd story, but it's one of those American folklores I remember. But for some reason I can't remember the name of the story. Perhaps some of you do. I also do not remember the title of the story. But if it sounds familiar to you guys, maybe you can put it in the comment section, or maybe I can Google it and figure out what happened, what the title of the story really was, and maybe I can reread that story. And it's been a long time. I was in the second grade when I read the story, I believe. But it's an interesting story, and it kind of lend a mystique to the idea of what's really happening when it's thundering and lightning and raining. Of course, as an adult, we know better. Well, aside from that, it's been a wonderful day. I ate a good afternoon dinner. I enjoyed our little rain session for the length of time that it lasted. It looks like it's getting brighter and the rain is clearing up a little bit. I'm sure it'll get cloudier and it'll rain again. The direction my camera is pointing is southeast, I believe. Yeah, southeast. So that's where the rain is rolling in from. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be more rain. In a couple of months, I'll be moving to the Great Northwest, to Washington State. I haven't yet decided where I'm going to live, but I'd like to live in South Hill again. South Hill, Washington, which is, as I like to joke, well, I can't say it's unincorporated Puyallup. South Hill and Puyallup connect. And South Hill is basically Puyallup, but it's called South Hill. But it's all really Puyallup. I'd like to live in that area again. The crime rate isn't that high as, say, if I lived in Tacoma, Washington, but I really like the area. And Seattle is only 45 minutes north of that. Tacoma is only 25 miles away, so it should be interesting. Well, I'm not going to bore you any longer. I just wanted to make a quick video during the rain. Hey, do you hear that? Do you hear the birds chirping? I mean, over the sound of the vehicles passing by on the highway. And I know with this camera you're going to hear a lot of white noise, but until I can upgrade my equipment, this is what I have to deal with. I plan on getting a microphone, a brand new, nice microphone, and with that, I shall make many more videos with a lot of good sound quality. And hopefully you'll enjoy what I come up with. I'm still learning my my software for video manipulation. It didn't come with very many instructions. So I've got to play with it and see what I can come up with. I wish I had a manual that shows me how to do all the little tricks and everything with it, but I don't have that. I'm going to have to go through and do with it what I can. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this video, and I thank you for watching. I thank you for all of your support. I really appreciate your comments. I've received a lot of really kind comments. Actually, I don't receive many negative comments at all, which is good because some of the bigger ASM artists like Heather Feather and Whispering Rose and ASMR Novastar and some of the others, Black Male ASMR, they seem to receive a lot of negative comments, and I'm glad that my viewers and the people who watch my videos aren't negative people, because negative comments can be put kind of a damper on you, but I don't let it bother me. In fact, sometimes I find it humorous. When I first got on YouTube, I received a lot of really hateful and ignorant comments from different people, but now I just kind of laugh at them. I've deleted some needed to be deleted, and I've blocked those persons because their level of hatred was just unreasonable. But to those of you who leave genuine, heartfelt comments, thank you, I appreciate it. And I hope to continue producing better content and stuff that can really help you to fall asleep and just relax, because this life is too short to be stressed. This is Small Observer, and I'm out.